The rescued prisoners shared everything they knew about the Ravager base. 4,000 captives remained inside, forced to maintain the stolen technology and sort through salvage. The Ravager leadership was fragmenting, fights breaking out over diminishing resources. They had been raiders for so long they forgot how to be anything else. Admiral Hatch arrived with the full human fleet 3 days after the rescue operation. She did not court-martial Captain Cross for violating orders. Instead, she promoted her to Commodore and assigned her to command the Vanguard. "You got results," Hatch said simply. "Now let's finish it." Over 400 human warships surrounded the Ravager base. The grotesque structure hung in space like a monument to everything the Ravagers had destroyed. 200 Ravager vessels positioned themselves in defensive formations, but their coordination was poor. Arguments played out on open communication channels. As different warlords disputed who should command the defense, Admiral Hatch broadcast one message on all frequencies: "Release all prisoners and surrender your vessels. This is your only chance. Refuse, and we will take the base by force." Warlord Scraff, who had survived the coral reaches by fleeing early, seized control of the Ravager command structure through violence and intimidation. His response was defiant. "We are Ravagers. We do not surrender. Come and die like the others." "So be it," Hatch replied. She cut the channel and turned to her tactical officer. "Begin the assault. Target their weapon platforms first. I want Marines ready for boarding action the moment we breach their defenses." The human fleet moved forward in coordinated waves. Destroyers and frigates led, absorbing the initial fire from the base's weapons. Behind them, cruisers and battleships opened up with their main guns, systematically destroying the defensive platforms. Welded onto the structure, the Ravager fleet fought with desperate ferocity. They knew this was the end, one way or another. Their ships crashed into human formations, trading their lives for damage. But human discipline held. Damaged ships withdrew to the second line while fresh vessels rotated forward. The fleet fought as a single organism, adapting to threats in real time. Captain Cross led her task force against the base's primary weapons array. All ships concentrated fire on Grid Section 7. Burn through that armor. Railgun rounds hammered the same spot repeatedly, punching through layers of salvaged hull plates until the weapons beneath exploded. One platform down. 23 to go. Inside the base, Warlord Scraff watched his defenses crumble. The humans fought with a precision and coordination his people could not match. They were winning, and winning decisively. He made a decision born of spite and rage. If he could not have the base, nobody would. He ordered his engineers to overload the main reactor. It would take 30 minutes to detonate, enough time to evacuate his key warriors. The prisoners and everyone else would die in the explosion. Marine Sergeant Devon Wright led the first boarding party through a breached airlock. 300 Marines poured into the base's interior, fighting room by room toward the prison sections. The close quarters negated the Ravagers' numerical advantage. Human Marines were trained for this exact type of combat. Sector 4 secure. Moving to prisoner-holding areas, Devon reported. Around him, his squad cleared corridors with brutal efficiency. Every Ravager they encountered fought to the death. There would be no prisoners taken today. In the reactor room deep within the base, Chief Engineer Paulo Domingo studied the overload sequence with growing horror. He had come aboard with a damage control team, expecting to secure the facility's power systems. Instead, he found a deliberately initiated meltdown. "This is Chief Domingo to all forces. The reactor is set to explode in 23 minutes. I repeat, reactor overload in 23 minutes. Admiral Hatch's response came immediately. "Can you stop it?" Paulo examined the controls. They were a nightmare mixture of technologies from a dozen civilizations, jury-rigged together without regard for safety or standardization. Maybe, but I need time and I am not sure I have enough. Do what you can, Chief. We are evacuating the prisoners now. Paulo began working. His hands moved with practiced confidence, even as his mind raced through the technical challenges. The Ravagers had used a traitor power core with builder safety systems controlled by thinker logic circuits. Nothing was compatible. Everything was wrong. Outside the reactor room, Sergeant Devon's Marines held the corridor against waves of Ravagers trying to reach the overload controls. They knew if the chief died, everyone died. The fighting was savage, neither side giving ground. 16 minutes, Paulo announced, sweat running down his face despite the cold. He bypassed the first safety lockout, then the second. The third refused to respond. He tried a different approach, rerouting power through auxiliary systems. The prisoners streamed out through secured airlocks into waiting human ships. 4,000 beings from dozens of species, all running for their lives. The Marines provided covering fire, buying seconds and minutes with their bodies. 10 minutes, Paulo's voice remained steady. He could see the solution now, just barely out of reach. If he could cross-wire the builder systems with the thinker controls, he might be able to emergency shut down the core. Devon's squad was down to 8 Marines from the original 15. They held the corridor, but Ravagers kept coming. Chief, you need to move faster. Working on it, Sergeant. 6 minutes. Paulo connected the final bypass. The reactor's roar began to diminish. The overload sequence stuttered, emergency systems fighting the deliberate sabotage. He was going to make it. Then Ravagers broke through into the reactor room's secondary entrance, a route the Marines had not secured. Paulo turned to see warriors rushing toward him. He kept his hands on the controls, finishing the shutdown sequence even as weapons fire filled the room. The reactor powered down. The overload stopped. Paulo slumped over the controls, 3 plasma burns across his back. Chief! Devon burst into the reactor room, but he was too late. Paulo's vital signs flatlined. Tell my wife. Paulo's last transmission crackled through the radio. Tell her I kept the old girl running. The Marines secured the reactor room and found Paulo's body at the controls. He had saved everyone and paid with his life. The battle ended 4 hours after it began. 200 Ravager ships destroyed or captured. The base secured. 4,000 prisoners freed. Human casualties. 31 ships destroyed, 98 damaged. 2,847 personnel dead. Admiral Hatch stood on the Valiant's bridge and looked at the casualty list. They had won, but the victory tasted of ash and blood. The Ravager threat was ended. But some prices were too high to celebrate. The refugee convoy died in silence. Observer Neelith watched through the monitoring station's windows as 43 civilian ships dissolved into expanding clouds of debris. No warnings. No chance to surrender. The Ravager clans had found another group of survivors trying to reach safety. Neelith's crystalline body pulsed with colors that translated to grief among her people. This was the 7th convoy this month. The 17th this year. The numbers had lost, meaning somewhere around the 1,000th ship destroyed. The 1,000,000th life ended. Behind her, the Galactic Council chamber erupted into the same useless arguments that had filled every session for 2 years. Delegate Prin from the Skyborn Collective slammed his wing against the podium, feathers bristling with rage. 23 civilizations have fallen while we debate procedures. Prin's translator rendered his screeching into flat standard speech. My homeworld burns. My people scatter across the stars like seeds in a storm. And still you discuss committee formations. Council Chair Velmuth withdrew his ancient head into his shell slightly. We must follow proper channels. Military action requires unanimous approval from all security members. The rules exist for good reason. The rules are killing us, Prin shot back. Neelith turned away from the argument. She had heard it too many times. The council races were too specialized, too comfortable in their long peace. The builders made beautiful structures, but had not fielded soldiers in 600 years. The traders possessed vast wealth, but no weapons. The thinkers could calculate orbital mechanics to 17 decimal places but froze when asked to plan military operations, and the Ravagers kept coming. 800 ships moving like a plague across the galaxy, consuming everything in their path. They did not conquer or occupy. They simply took what they wanted and moved on, leaving dead worlds behind. The monitoring station shuddered as a human cargo ship docked hard against the coupling port. Nalith appreciated humans for many reasons, but their piloting rarely ranked among them. They flew like they approached most things, directly, quickly, and with little concern for elegance. Captain Oren Reeves emerged from the airlock hauling cargo containers that should have required mechanical assistance. Humans and their stubborn pride in physical strength. He had been making supply runs to the station for 3 years now. Nalith had grown to appreciate his directness. Observer, Oren nodded to her, wiping sweat from his weathered face. Heard the council found new ways to say nothing. An accurate summary. Nalith's colors shifted to resigned blue. How goes the wider galaxy? Same as in here. People running, monsters chasing, nobody doing anything about it. Oren secured the last container. Heard something though. 17 human colonies on the outer rim went dark last month. Nalith's colors flashed a sharp white. I had not heard this. Yeah, well, Earth keeps things quiet sometimes. Oren's casual tone did not match the tension in his shoulders. Communication just stopped. All 17, same day, same hour. Military response teams found nothing but bodies and empty buildings. New Perth? Oren's jaw tightened. New Perth was one of them. My daughter Anna lives there. Lived there. I am sorry. Don't be sorry. Just tell me why your council isn't doing anything. Oren's voice stayed level, but Nalith knew humans well enough to recognize contained rage. 4.3 million people. That's the estimate. 4.3 million humans dead, and Velmuth wants to form a study committee. The council fears escalation. If we authorize military force, it sets precedent. It changes the fundamental nature of how we govern. The Ravagers already changed everything. Oren checked his ship's manifest on a handheld device. My people have a saying. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. The Ravagers showed us their murderers. Time someone believed it. He left without another word. Nalith watched his ship depart, violating 6 traffic regulations and ignoring 3 warnings from station control. Humans rarely waited for permission when they decided action was necessary. 3 days later, Earth's response reached the council. Ambassador Ray Torsten delivered it personally, his dark suit and formal bearing a sharp contrast to Oren's casual manner. But Nalith saw the same quality in his eyes. Humans called it resolve. The unified government of Earth thanks the Council for its sympathies regarding our losses. Torsten's voice carried across the chamber with practiced diplomatic smoothness. However, we find the response inadequate. Ambassador, we are preparing comprehensive aid packages, Velmuth began. We don't want aid packages. We want action. Since the Council seems unable or unwilling to provide it, Earth will act independently. The chamber fell silent. Velmuth's eyes widened. You cannot. The demilitarization treaties specifically limit human fleet expansion. You agreed to defensive forces only. Our colonies were attacked. This is defense. Torsten placed a data chip on the podium. Consider this Earth's formal notification. We are activating our reserve fleet and recalling all military personnel. Any attempt to interfere will be considered a hostile act. You're threatening the Council? Velmuth's voice rose to a pitch Nalith had never heard. No, Chair. We're informing you that humanity protects its own. with or without council approval. Torsten walked out. 3 other ambassadors followed him. Smaller species, ones who had lost worlds to the Ravagers while the council debated. Nihilith noticed Prin among them that the council dissolved into chaos. Velmuth called for emergency sessions and sanctions. Legal scholars argued treaty interpretations. Military advisors warned about human unpredictability. Nihilith returned to her observation post and pulled up Earth's system on her monitors. Even from this distance, she could see the activity increasing. Ships moving. Stations activating. Traffic patterns changing from civilian to military. The humans were done talking. And Nihilith suspected the galaxy was about to learn what that meant. Her colors shifted to a pattern her people reserved for witnessing historical moments. Whatever came next would reshape everything. The age of peaceful debate was ending. The Deathworlders had finally had enough. The Kuiper Belt had kept Earth secret for 19 years. Chief Engineer Paulo Domingo floated through the maintenance corridor of the battleship Indomitable, running his fingers along hull plating that officially did not exist. 300 warships slept in the darkness beyond Neptune, masked as mining platforms and research stations. Nobody had believed Earth would actually demilitarize. Humanity had learned too many hard lessons about being unprepared. So they had followed the letter of the Council treaties, while thoroughly ignoring the spirit. Defensive forces only, the agreement said. Earth had simply redefined what defensive meant. Paulo's communicator chimed. All personnel, activation sequence initiated. This is not a drill. Report to duty stations immediately. 19 years of maintenance drills and readiness checks had led to this moment. Paulo kicked off toward the reactor room, muscle memory guiding him through corridors he could navigate blind. Around him, the Indomitable groaned and hummed as systems powered up for the first time since mothballing across the solar system. Similar scenes repeated 300 times. On Luna, drill instructor Yuki Sato watched her latest batch of recruits stumble through combat drills with the clumsy desperation of people who knew they would face real combat soon. The recruits were young, scared, and determined. She pushed them harder. Move faster. The Ravagers won't wait for you to figure out which end of the rifle fires. Yuki's voice could cut through hull plating. They killed 4 million of our people. 4 million. You think they'll give you time to think about proper stance? A recruit named Tom fumbled his weapon change. Yuki was on him instantly. What happens when your primary jams? Switch to secondary instructor. And if secondary is gone? Knife instructor. And if you lose the knife? Tom hesitated. Yuki grabbed his arm and twisted him into a submission hold. You become the weapon. Every part of you is a tool for survival. The moment you forget that, you're dead. We clear? Clear, instructor. She released him. Good, now run it again. All of you. And this time pretend something you love is behind you, because it will be. Near Neptune. Captain Lena Cross sat in the command chair of the destroyer Relentless and watched her crew flow through their stations like water finding its level. They were good. Better than good. They had trained for this possibility every day, knowing it might never come but preparing anyway. Engineering reports full power. Weapon systems online. Navigation ready for jump. Her executive officer rattled off status updates with professional calm. We're ready, Captain. Lena pulled up the fleet roster on her screen. 427 ships. Humanity had built a war fleet in secret, and now they were about to unleash it. The Council would scream about treaty violations. Let them scream. The bodies of 4 million humans demanded a response louder than diplomatic protests. Set course for Rally Point Titan, Lena ordered. And send a message to all crew. We're going to find the things that killed our people. And we're going to stop them, permanently. At Fleet Command on Earth. Admiral Corinne Hatch studied tactical displays showing ship positions, supply lines, and intelligence estimates. The Ravagers numbered around 800 ships, but they rarely concentrated more than 50 in one location. They were raiders, not tacticians. They relied on speed, surprise, and the unwillingness of their victims to fight back. They had never faced a prepared military force. "Admiral, the last reserve units are reporting ready status," her aide announced. "Fleet assembly will be complete in 6 hours." Corinne nodded. 6 hours. Then the largest human military force ever assembled would begin its hunt. The Council had sent 12 formal complaints in the last 3 days. She had ignored all of them. Ambassador Torsten appeared on her communication screen. "The Council is threatening sanctions. They're talking about cutting off trade, denying access to jump gates, freezing Earth's assets. Let them try." Corinne did not look up from her displays. Most Council races are too busy running from the Ravagers to enforce sanctions. And the ones who aren't running are watching to see if we succeed. Some of them are asking for protection. 16 formal requests for mutual defense treaties. Tell them we'll discuss it after we've dealt with the Ravagers. Corinne finally met Torsten's eyes. "We're not doing this for glory or territory. We're doing it because somebody has to. I know. I just hope the galaxy understands that. They will. One way or another." Titan's orbit became a gathering point for human military power. Ships arrived in groups, slotting into formation with practiced precision. Frigates and destroyers formed the outer screen. Cruisers and battleships made up the main battle line. Carriers held position in the center, their fighter wings ready for deployment. Paulo watched it all from the Indomitable's observation deck. 19 years maintaining this ship, and finally he would see her in action. Part of him felt pride. Another part felt sick at the necessity. Captain Oren Reeves stood beside him. The freighter pilot had volunteered the day Earth announced mobilization. They had given him a spot on a marine transport ship. He was not a soldier, but he could fly anything with engines. And he needed to be there when they found the Ravagers. Needed to look them in the eye for what they did to Anna. "Big fleet," Oren said quietly. "Not big enough, according to some analysts. The Ravagers outnumber us almost 2 to 1. Numbers aren't everything. We've got something they don't. What's that? A reason to win that matters more than survival." Oren turned away from the window. "They kill to keep themselves alive. We're fighting to make sure nobody else dies the way our people did. That's not the same." The fleet assembled in silence, a massive formation of human determination and firepower. Admiral Hatch transferred her flag to the supercarrier Valiant, a vessel whose existence violated 3 separate Council treaties. She did not care. "All ships, this is Fleet Command," her voice carried across 427 vessels. "Final systems check complete. Jump drives charging. In 60 seconds, we begin the hunt. Stay sharp, watch your sectors, and remember why we're here. Earth expects every person to do their duty. And our duty is to stop the Ravagers, permanently." The countdown began. Paulo strapped into his station and ran one final check on the reactor. Everything showed green. The Indomitable was ready. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when humanity stopped asking for permission. Refugee ships drifted past the human fleet like leaves on a slow current. Families from a dozen species crammed into cargo haulers, pleasure yachts, and anything else that could achieve faster-than-light travel. They were running from the latest Ravager attacks, carrying whatever they could grab before their worlds burned. The humanitarian ship Mercy's Hand broke formation without asking permission. Captain Rose Valdez was not about to ignore people in need, even if it meant delaying the fleet. Her crew distributed food, medicine, and repair supplies to refugees who looked at them with the same desperate gratitude that marked every survivor. Admiral Hatch watched from the Valiant, but did not countermand the order. "Let them help. We're not so focused on revenge that we forget why we fight. Among the refugees were Delegate Prin's people, the Skyborn Collective. Avian beings with iridescent feathers now dulled by grief and exhaustion. Their homeworld had fallen 2 weeks ago. 8 billion people reduced to scattered thousands fleeing in whatever ships they could find. Prin himself approached the Valiant, requesting to meet with Admiral Hatch. She granted it. Curious what the council delegate wanted. "You are going to fight them," Prin said. It was not a question. "Yes, I wish to join you. My people have pilots, navigators, warriors who trained before the long peace. We are not helpless, despite how we appear now." Hatch studied the avian carefully. "I won't turn away allies. But this is a human operation. Our command structure, our tactics." "Understood. We do not seek control. We seek what the Council could not provide. Justice." "Not justice," Hatch corrected. "Justice comes later, in courts and hearings. This is something simpler. We're going to stop them from hurting anyone else." Commander Sam Winter spread intelligence data across the briefing room table. Charts showed Ravager movements over 2 years, attack patterns, ship classifications, technology assessments. She had built the picture from scattered reports and survivor testimony, piecing together an enemy profile from fragments. "They follow resources," Sam explained to the senior officers. "Mineral-rich systems, manufacturing centers, agricultural worlds. They hit hard, take what they need, and move on. The pattern suggests they are running out of something. Fuel, ammunition, food, maybe all three. So they are desperate," Captain Lena Cross observed. "Desperate and efficient. They have not lost a single engagement in 2 years because nobody has fought back effectively. Their tactics assume victims will scatter and run." Admiral Hatch leaned forward. "What's their next likely target?" Sam highlighted a system on the star map. "The Coral Reaches. Major trade hub, dense with civilian traffic, minimal military presence. It fits every parameter of their previous targets. How long until they hit it?" "Based on their movement patterns, 3 to 5 days." Hatch studied the map. An idea formed, risky but potentially decisive. "We split the fleet. Task Force Alpha positions at the Coral Reaches, visible and ready. Task Force Bravo hides in the Nebula 1 system over. When the Ravagers commit to attacking Alpha, Bravo jumps in behind them. We would be dividing our forces against a numerically superior enemy," her tactical officer pointed out. "The Ravagers divide their forces constantly. Difference is, we communicate and coordinate. They hunt in packs. We fight as a fleet." The senior officers exchanged glances. It was bold, aggressive, and typically human. They approved it unanimously. 3 days later, 73 Ravager ships dropped out of hyperspace at the Coral Reaches. Warlord Scrath commanded the flotilla from his flagship, a massive vessel built from the wreckage of 6 different ship types. His crew was a mixture of warriors, scavengers, and slaves taken from conquered worlds. Scrath expected the usual scene: civilian ships fleeing in panic, defense platforms firing uselessly, orbital stations broadcasting futile surrender offers. Instead, he found 200 human warships in formation around the civilian infrastructure. For several seconds, Scrath simply stared. Nobody had ever deliberately waited for his fleet. Nobody had positioned themselves between the Ravagers and their target. It violated everything he understood about how prey behaved. "Scan them," he ordered his sensor operator. "What are they?" "Human vessels. Earth registry. Multiple ship classes, all military grade. They are powering weapons." A communication came through on standard frequencies. Admiral Hatch's voice was calm and cold. "Ravager vessels, you are ordered to withdraw immediately. You killed 4 million of our people. We are here to balance the scales. No surrender. No mercy. Earth remembers. Scrath laughed. The sound had no humor in it. 200 ships against my 800 scattered across the sector. They are fools. Attack pattern 7. Sweep their flanks and destroy them. The Ravager fleet surged forward. Scrath expected the human formation to break as ships panicked and scattered. Prey always ran when the hunters showed their teeth. The humans accelerated directly toward them. Scrath's laughter died. What are they doing? His sensor operator's voice shook. They are charging us, Warlord. The two fleets collided at a combined speed that made tactical sensors scream. Ravager plasma weapons hammered into human shields, depleting them rapidly. But beneath the shields was armor, thick plates of processed metal designed to handle punishment. Human ships were built like their homeworld, tough and unforgiving. Human railguns fired, magnetic accelerators launching tungsten rounds at relativistic speeds. The simple kinetic weapons punched through Ravager shields designed to stop energy attacks. 3 Ravager destroyers broke apart in the first exchange, their hulls unable to handle the physical impact. Captain Cross watched from the Relentless as her weapon. Crews worked with mechanical precision. Nuclear missiles armed. Firing solution locked. Release. 12 missiles streaked toward the Ravager formation. The Ravagers tried to intercept them with point defense, but the missiles were faster than expected, more maneuverable. Nuclear fire blossomed across 3 Ravager cruisers. The galaxy had forgotten how terrifying human weapons could be. Scrath realized his error too late. These were not prey. These were predators. All ships, concentrate fire on their flagship. If we kill their command structure, they will break. The Ravager fleet began to reform, trying to focus their superior numbers. They were bringing more ships into the battle, committing their reserves to overwhelm the human force through sheer weight of fire. Admiral Hatch watched the Ravager formation shift on her tactical display. They were doing exactly what she predicted, committing everything to the attack, bringing ships together for a concentrated assault. Signal Task Force Bravo, she ordered. Execute jump, now. 227 human warships materialized behind the Ravager formation. The trap closed like a vice. Scrath's sensors screamed warnings. Enemy contacts behind, above, below. His fleet was surrounded. How? He whispered. The answer came in railgun fire and missile strikes. Human ships attacked from 2 sides simultaneously, coordinated movements that spoke to practiced discipline and unified command. The Ravagers fought as individuals. The humans fought as one organism. In 47 minutes, 73 Ravager ships were reduced to 12 fleeing survivors and expanding debris fields. Human losses: 8 ships destroyed, 23 damaged. Pursue, Admiral Hatch ordered. I want to know where they run to. Dead stars made poor landmarks, but the fleeing Ravagers needed none. They knew the way home by instinct, by years of returning to the same hidden base with their stolen goods. Captain Lena Cross followed them with 40 of the fastest human ships, staying just far enough back to avoid detection. 4 days of pursuit led to a system that barely deserved the name. 3 burned planets orbited a dying red star, their surfaces scorched to glass by some ancient catastrophe. Nothing lived here. Nothing should exist here, but something did. Sensors are picking up a massive structure in orbit of the second planet. Ensign Tala Ibarra reported from her station. It's big, Captain. Really big. Lena studied the long-range scans. The structure was grotesque, a floating city built from the wreckage of hundreds of ships. Hull plates from different civilizations welded together without care for aesthetics or logic. It looked like a tumor grown from metal and stolen technology. Life signs? Lena asked. Thousands. Maybe tens of thousands. Tala adjusted her readings. Wait, that's not right. Most of them are not Ravagers. Different biological signatures. Multiple species. Commander Sam Winter, who had accompanied the pursuit force, felt her stomach turn cold. They are keeping prisoners. The realization spread through the bridge like ice water. The Ravagers did not just kill and steal. They took people. For labor, for hostages, for purposes nobody wanted to contemplate. Scan for human biosigns, Lena ordered quietly. Tala worked her console. I'm detecting several hundred human signatures. Possibly more. My sensors cannot penetrate all the interior shielding. Survivors. People from the 17 colonies, still alive. Orrin Reeves would want to know immediately. Get me Admiral Hatch. Lena said. The communication took 3 hours to reach the main fleet and 3 more for Hatch's response. In that time, Lena's sensor crew counted the Ravager ships defending the base. Over 200 vessels, more than 5 times what the pursuit force could handle. Admiral Hatch's face appeared on the screen, her expression grim. I see the situation, Captain. You have 40 ships. They have over 200. Math is not favorable. No, ma'am. But there are prisoners down there. Our people. I am aware. I am ordering you to withdraw and wait for the main fleet. We will arrive in 3 weeks with sufficient force to assault the base. 3 weeks. Lena thought about what could happen to prisoners in 3 weeks. About what the Ravagers might do if they suspected a rescue attempt was coming. Understood, Admiral. We will maintain position and observe. Do not attempt a rescue, Captain. That is a direct order. Hatch out. The communication ended. Lena sat in her chair, staring at the tactical display. 200 ships. 40 ships. The math was impossible. Orrin Reeves found her in the ship's small observation lounge 2 hours later. They had allowed him to monitor communications, so he had heard everything. His hands shook slightly as he held a cup of coffee. My daughter is down there, he said quietly. I know. 3 weeks is a long time. I know that too. Orrin stared out at the distant structure. I used to fly freight through debris fields. Asteroid mining operations would leave chunks of rock and metal floating everywhere. Dangerous, but if you were small and fast enough, you could navigate through it. Sensors could not track you properly with all the interference. Lena turned to look at him. What are you suggesting? That structure is surrounded by debris from all the ships they salvaged to build it. Small craft could approach through the field. Maybe get close enough to reach a docking bay. That would be a violation of direct orders. I am not military. I do not follow your orders. Orrin met her eyes. I am just a volunteer pilot who wants to rescue his daughter. If some other volunteers wanted to help, that would be their choice. Lena should have said no. Should have confined Orrin to quarters and maintained the observation position exactly as ordered. Should have done many things that she did not do. How many small craft do we have? She asked Commander Sam Winter. 20 shuttles and support vessels across the pursuit. Force. And how many volunteers do you think we could find for a rescue operation that is definitely not authorized and probably suicidal? Sam smiled slightly. All of them, Captain. 6 hours later, 20 small craft approached the Ravager base through a maze of drifting debris. Orrin flew the lead shuttle with Ensign Tala Ibarra navigating from the sensor station. Behind them, 19 other pilots followed the path he carved through the floating wreckage. Marine Sergeant Devin Wright checked his weapon for the 5th time. 30 Marines were crammed into the shuttles, all volunteers who understood they might not make it back. Devin had served for 12 years and never backed down from a fight. He was not starting now. 2 minutes to docking bay, Orrin announced. Ravager patrol just passed. Window is open. The shuttle slipped into a salvage bay meant for incoming loot. They landed in a section filled with stripped hulls and piled machinery. The Marines disembarked in practiced silence, weapons ready. The interior of the base was worse than the exterior. Corridors made from welded hull plates ran in chaotic directions. Lighting was irregular, some sections bright and others nearly dark. The air smelled of too many species, breathing too little oxygen in too small a space. Devon led his Marines through the maze, following Tala's sensor readings toward the largest concentration of non-Ravager life signs. They encountered guards twice, putting them down with suppressed weapons before alarms could sound. The Ravagers had grown complacent, used to prisoners who could not fight back. The prison section was a massive cargo bay filled with cages made from scrap metal. Thousands of beings from dozens of species huddled in the cramped spaces. When the Marines appeared, many prisoners simply stared, unable to process what was happening. "We are human military," Devon announced in standard galactic speech. "We are here to get you out. Stay calm and follow our instructions." The prisoners erupted in movement. Some pushed forward, desperate to escape. Others hung back, afraid it was a trick. Devon's Marines worked to organize the chaos, directing people toward the shuttles. Oren pushed through the crowd, scanning faces. Anna Reeves? Dad?" A young woman's voice, hoarse from disuse. He found her in a cage with other human prisoners. She looked thin, bruised, traumatized, but alive. Oren's hands shook as he opened the cage. Anna fell into his arms, and they both wept. "We need to move," Devon urged. "Alarms just activated. They know we are here." The extraction turned into a running battle. Ravager guards poured into the corridors as Marines shepherded prisoners toward the shuttles. 342 prisoners were evacuated in 40 minutes, far more than the small craft were designed to carry. Life support systems screamed warnings as oxygen levels dropped. "Go, go, go!" Devon shouted as his Marines held the corridor. Ravager fire intensified. 2 Marines went down. Devon dragged one to the shuttle even as return fire covered them. The shuttles lifted off overloaded, struggling under the weight. Ravager fighters scrambled to intercept them in the debris field. Captain Cross brought the Relentless and 5 other destroyers in close, violating every safety protocol about proximity to debris fields. Human point defense weapons lit up the space, intercepting Ravager fire meant for the fleeing shuttles. 3 shuttles did not make it back, lost with all aboard in the debris field, but 342 prisoners gained their freedom, including 67 humans from the lost colonies, including Anna Reeves. The Galactic Council chamber had never been so divided. Half the delegates stood as Admiral Hatch and Ambassador Torsten entered. The other half remained seated, faces showing everything from gratitude to barely concealed fury. Observer Neelith watched from her station, colors shifting through patterns of anticipation. Council Chair Velmuth began with accusations rather than thanks. "You violated 3 major treaties, ignored direct council orders, and conducted military operations without authorization. Explain yourselves." Ambassador Torsten placed a datapad on the central podium. "This contains a list of council failures over the past 2 years. 23 civilizations destroyed while you debated procedure. 4.3 million humans killed while you formed committees. Thousands of beings enslaved while you discussed protocols. We followed established procedures," Velmuth protested. "Your procedures killed billions." Torsten's voice remained level, but every word cut. "We requested action 17 times. You provided sympathy and study groups. When our colonies burned, you offered condolences. So we stopped asking permission." Delegate Prin stood, his feathers catching the chamber lights. "The chair speaks of violations, but I speak of results. My people scattered across space after our world fell. Your procedures did not save us. Human ships provided food, medicine, and protection. Human Marines died defending strangers. Where were the Council peacekeepers?" "The situation was complex," Velmuth began. The situation was simple, Prin interrupted. Evil existed. Someone needed to stop it. Humanity did what the Council could not. The chamber erupted in arguments. Some delegates supported Prin's position. Others defended the Council's cautious approach. Legal scholar Quinn called for order, her multiple eyes scanning ancient treaty documents. The treaties are indeed violated, Quinn announced. But they are also fundamentally broken. They were written for a time of peace, not for existential threats. Humanity found the loopholes because the loopholes exist. We cannot punish them for exposing our own failures. Ambassador Torsten waited for silence. Earth has no interest in galactic domination. We want what we have always wanted, safety for our people and a system that actually responds to threats. If the Council cannot provide that, we will create it ourselves. You cannot simply ignore Council authority, Velmuth said. Watch us, Torsten gestured to the datapad. 16 species have requested mutual defense treaties with Earth, not with the Council. With Earth, they trust us to respond when needed. Can you say the same? The truth of that statement silenced Velmuth. The Council's legitimacy rested on its ability to maintain order and security. It had failed spectacularly at both. Admiral Hatch spoke for the first time. We did not do this for glory. We did it because waiting was no longer acceptable. The 4,000 prisoners we freed included your citizens, Chair Velmuth. Your own people, taken by Ravagers while the Council studied the matter. We brought them home. At what cost? Velmuth asked quietly. How many died in your war? Too many. But fewer than would have died if we had waited for the Council to act. Hatch met his eyes without flinching. We are soldiers, not politicians. We understand that sometimes the cost of action is high. But inaction has a cost too, and we were tired of paying it. The debate continued for hours. Accusations, defenses, proposals for sanctions and reforms. Finally, Delegate Prin called for a vote on a simple proposition. Should the Council accept Earth's military actions as justified under the circumstances? The vote was close. 18 in favor, 15 against, 4 abstaining. The Council recognizes that humanity acted within the spirit of mutual defense, Quinn announced. No sanctions will be levied. However, we propose comprehensive security reforms to ensure such independent action is not necessary in the future. Ambassador Torsten nodded. Earth will participate in security reforms. But we will maintain our fleet at current levels. If another threat emerges, we will respond. With or without Council approval. Agreed, Prin said immediately. And the Skyborn Collective formally requests a mutual defense treaty with Earth. Within weeks, Earth signed defense pacts with 12 species. The Joint Defense Initiative formed, a coalition of worlds committed to active protection rather than passive hope. The Galactic Council underwent its first major reform in 600 years, creating a rapid response force with actual authority to act. On Earth, life slowly returned to something resembling normal. The fleet remained active, patrolling trade routes and responding to distress calls. Captain Cross commanded Task Force Sentinel, 40 ships designated for emergency response. They were always ready, always watching. Captain Oren Reeves retired from military service. He settled on a colony world with Anna, helping rebuild what the Ravagers had destroyed. His daughter was healing, slowly learning to process what had happened. Some nights she still woke screaming. But she was alive, and she was home. Admiral Hatch returned to Earth and submitted her resignation. The government refused it, instead promoting her to Supreme Commander of Joint Forces. She accepted reluctantly, knowing the fight was not over. There would always be new threats, new challenges. The memorial in Colorado grew to include Chief Engineer Paulo Domingo's name. 4.3 million colonists. 2,847 fleet personnel. Each name carved in stone, a permanent reminder of the cost. Beneath the names, Workers installed a simple phrase, "We remember." We responded. We endure. Sergeant Devon Wright stood at the memorial during the dedication ceremony. He had received the Star of Valor for his actions at the Ravager base, but he barely remembered the awards ceremony. He only remembered his Marines, the ones who came home and the ones who did not. Was it worth it? A reporter asked him. Devon looked at the names carved in stone. We stopped them. Nobody else will die the way our colonists did. If that's not worth it, what is? Across the galaxy, trade routes reopened. Refugees found new homes. Colonies were rebuilt. The age of complacent peace was over, replaced by vigilant cooperation. The Council learned that maintaining peace required the willingness to fight for it. Observer. Nylith watched it all from her station. Humans had forced the galaxy to change, not through conquest, but through action when action was needed. They had proven themselves as both warriors and protectors. Her colors shifted to a pattern of respect. The Deathworlders had taught the galaxy an important lesson. Sometimes caring about people means being willing to fight for them. Admiral Hatch sat in her Colorado home, watching the fleet depart for their regular patrol routes. The ships were symbols now, reminders that humanity would not stand idle in the face of evil. She thought about Paulo, about the Marines who died, about the colonists who never came home. We remember, she said quietly to the empty room, and in remembering, humanity ensured it would never be caught unprepared again. The galaxy was safer because Deathworlders had finally had enough. Somewhere beyond the edge sectors, Admiral Hatch's intelligence network picked up whispers of something else moving in the darkness. New threats would emerge eventually. They always did, but when they came, they would find humanity ready. And they would learn what the Ravagers learned too late. When you threaten a Deathworlder's home, you do not face individuals. You face an entire species that remembers, responds, and endures. The war fleet stood ready. And it would remain ready for as long as threats existed in the galaxy. Because that was humanity's place now. Not conquerors. Not rulers. Just defenders who refused to look away when people needed help. The stars were safer because of it.